the doorbell has stopped for a little while, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to our very first Community Connections event. I'm very excited about this new event, not just with COVID, but also with our stretch around the state. This is an opportunity for us to hone in on different issues. That our next issue area, I can tell you, will be environmental for Earth Day. And I am in the process of reining in all of our organizations for that event, if you are so interested. But we are going to focus on an issue per event. Today is hunger and homelessness. And we've brought together different organizations that are outside of the obvious organizations that you always think of with hunger. And there's some great collaboration going. And you are welcome as volunteers to sign up for opportunities with all three organizations. You're welcome to ask questions. You're welcome to challenge, to offer some ideas that maybe work for additional collaboration. This is a forum for great idea sharing and collaboration and offering your assistance in whatever form that may be. We'll have a slide deck up for each presenter. We have Harvest Pack, with Brooks Bryant, and it's a program of Spark the Change Colorado. He will be first, and we have Eileen Lambert with Colorado Pet Pantry, and Yasmin Castillo with Metro Caring, and all of their contact info will be up right before they speak. So you can choose to either contact them directly after the session, or you can go to our website, sparkthechangecolorado.org, and find their posted volunteer opportunities, check your calendars, check your availability, and sign up online as well if you need a little time to figure it out. But it's up to you. Please feel free to ask questions throughout. There will be plenty of time at the end after each of the presentations to ask questions as well. Each presenter will be talking for about 10 to 15 minutes. All right, and with that, Amanda, let's get going.
All right. Let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes,
okay.
I can see it.
Awesome.
All right, hooray, hunger and homelessness.
All right. So.
All right, and we have Brooks with some technical difficulties. Brooks is just joining us by phone, and so we'll be sharing his presentation and giving him verbal cues. He can't see any of us or the slides, just so you know.
Actually, I think everyone's lucky this afternoon that they don't have to see me. My apologies for not being on video. The guys working in the front yard this morning cut the Comcast line, so I have no internet, but luckily I do have a cell phone. And I'm here today to represent Spark the Change, talking about our Harvest Pack food packing events. And note on this first slide, I say addressing food insecurity. It's certainly working with our partners with Harvest Pack events. We can do those anywhere, but I'm going to speak today specifically to one kind of cool, that's City and County of Denver only thing that we've got on the books right now, even though we'll be doing Harvest Pack events, distributing food all sorts of places. I'm sort of talking a lot today about one that we've got on the books right now for Denver. If you go to the next slide, Amanda, just briefly, most of you know Spark the Change because you know Kelly, because you, okay.
Hold on, we're catching up with you. So Amanda's working on sharing your deck.
Can everyone see it? I'm on the mission and vision slide.
No.
No?
I'm still on our presentation. Yeah. There we go.
Okay, great.
So most of you know Spark pretty well. For many years, it was Metro Volunteers, but for about the last, has it been 3 now? We have been Spark the Change Colorado. We certainly work a lot in the Metro Denver area, but we have been working for many, many years all over the state of Colorado. And just for those of you who are not that familiar, I'm not going to go over like our mission, vision, and values. But what I'm going to say is that many of you do know that we're a capacity builder. So much of what we do is in support of great local nonprofits. We work to help nonprofits and sort of supply a lot of different functionality that local nonprofits may not have in their own offices. And that's why we're always trying to get volunteers. I know personally in my job, I'm continually trying to get corporations to support you. I'm trying to get volunteers to come out and help you. And we're a capacity builder supporting all of these nonprofits that are here in Colorado. And I'll even be able to talk about Metro Caring a little bit because they're touched with some of what we're doing on this project I'm talking about today. If we'll go to the next slide, let me know when that's up.
All right, it's up.
We're on the About Harvest Pack.
Yes, so Harvest Pack, when we have our Harvest Pack events, I would love to say that we're the ones that thought of this in the beginning. We're not, but we have a fabulous partner organization called Harvest Pack. And what Harvest Pack does in essence is they've done a great job of figuring out how to package meals at great economics so we can get those to people that are in need of food. And we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So what they do is they have this fabulous relationship with like farmers co-ops. And so often like our meals may be like oat-based, something that's primarily suited for breakfast, or we may have rice meals and then a variety of other ingredients that go in there. So Harvest Pack has a relationship directly with farm co-ops. So we buy, like 50-pound bags that you may have seen before. We buy bulk quantity directly from farm co-ops for our ingredients. So we're not going through like a distributor or any kind of other middle company that's doing marketing and sales, et cetera. So that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect of our meals that are Harvest Pack meals is that for the packing, going down from the bulk size that you might be thinking of at this point coming from the farmer, for our packaging in single serve packets or packets of things that will be like a single meal packet or serve a family, we utilize volunteers. And that's where so much of our background as Metro volunteers and sourcing volunteers helps out, because we'll hold an event, we will get volunteers, we will do the packaging, and then we'll distribute those meals to wherever that particular event is supporting. So let's go to the next slide and let's talk about a particular thing that we're doing right now.
Okay, we're on the next slide.
Okay, on this one, so with our partner Harvest Pack, we're using a grant from the city and county of Denver to pack 800,000 meals for our friends and neighbors. And we can deliver these meals for 25 cents each. So think about that. We're delivering meals for a quarter. And the result is a great tasting bit of nutrition at a price that's difficult to beat. And these meals, I'm not saying that it provides all your calories for the day, but in each one of these 25-cent meals, we have the vitamins and minerals to sustain you for an entire day. And at 25 cents, that's the best economics that we've found. And that's 25 cents for the completed packaged meal. That's not us just buying the bulk, et cetera. That's the end price. And the distribution of these meals goes through a variety of local nonprofit food pantries, so we can reach as many people within the city and county as possible. So like this one, because it's a grant from the city and county of Denver, the food stays within the city and county of Denver. And as I mentioned, one of those organizations that will be distributing some of these meals is Metro Caring, who you'll hear from later. And Metro Caring is earmarked to get some of these. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
And so this is just this one piece, and this is not the only thing we're doing with Harvest Pack. This is just one piece that I wanted to use as an example. So by the end of March, we'll have packed and distributed a third of that 800,000, 2/3 by the end of April. And right at the end of May or first part of June, we will have packaged and distributed the 800,000 meals out so people can get them. And when I say this is just one example of what we're doing, we also do these that we look for corporate sponsors. I'm continually looking for a corporate sponsor to sort of underwrite a Harvest Pack day or a Harvest Pack shift or a series of shifts. What that looks like is actually them paying for enough meals for a shift. I think we'll start out something as low as about 13,000 meals, and to have an event. Sometimes we do these at companies, and their employees find it a great team building exercise. Other times we use gyms. We've done them in gymnasiums. We currently run most of our events for this particular grant that I've been talking about out of the Salvation Army warehouse that is out close to I-70 and the Loop, the 225. And we do plenty of those out there at that warehouse. So we look for companies to underwrite this. We also always ask people if they would consider donating for these meals. And it's 4 meals for $1, and you can do the math, easy to see how a very small contribution can make for a lot of meals. And the reason that we have been doing so much Harvest Pack, especially during the pandemic, is it's one of the few things that we found that people are very comfortable doing because of the layout. And we'll show you some pictures here shortly. But in essence, we've always followed FDA food handling procedures. So there was already a lot of gloves and masks and hair covering and all of this stuff going on. And we took that and we took it to an additional level by implementing a lot of distancing, sort of extra secure PPE usage. We follow a procedure that is set up by the state of Colorado and some other areas. We've incorporated a little assessment that you fill out before you come in, and it's about your health and well-being and have you had a fever or have you had a cough or any symptoms of COVID. We do take temperatures and then people come in. And not unlike being in a medical situation, if a glove is torn or ripped or a mask comes down or whatever else, a person is pulled away from the line and goes back to the start to get PPE back on before they can come back out to the line. The other side of this is, even though people have wanted to volunteer, there's a level of risk, or at the very least perceived risk, of going out in the public. And we needed to make sure that there was enough protection and distance between people and tables that you would feel more comfortable doing this than you would feel, going to Target or going to the pharmacy or whatever. It's a much safer environment. And not only that, we look at space. So even working in colder weather in an enclosed space, if you see our line set up, it's either in a gymnasium, as I said, or the warehouse that we're doing a lot of these in most recently is huge. So you have a lot of circulating air, you have a huge space, you have social distancing, you have people wearing PPE. If we'll go to the next slide, it'll sort of give you a look at that. And as everyone on this phone call is aware, hunger, the demand for food and the pervasive nature of hunger in our state has always been there. And it's something that so many wonderful organizations have addressed. What COVID has done and unemployment has done and reduced staffing everywhere, what it has done is just made so many more people need food than ever before. So if you look on this, you'll see, like in this particular slide, this is like a breakfast oatmeal being packed. And if you look in the top right-hand side of the slide, you'll see how far the tables are distanced apart. This was the gym at West High School in Denver, for those of you that are familiar with that.
Brooks,
And these tables,
slide
yes.
should I be on? What slide should I be on? I think
It says our volunteers, it's slide 6, our volunteers wear hairnets, masks, and gloves. FDA food handling procedures are in place.
Previous slide, Maddie, or Amanda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're looking at this, you'll see that here in these photos at West High, the tables are actually about 10 feet apart, and that's the edges of these tables. Each of these tables is 6 feet long, and the person is in the middle of the table. So in essence, these people, each person is 16 feet apart, and you're not seeing faces in this, you're just seeing gloves. But people have hairnets on, they have masks on, they have gloves on, they stay this far apart. When this person at this yellow cone completes filling that bag, he will sit it in a little red container that's just beyond the cone, which you can barely see. And when he fills that container, he steps away from his table. A runner wearing full PPE comes in, picks that up, and takes it down to the next table, where that person is putting in some nutrient pack ingredients down there. There's vitamins and minerals, et cetera, that go into the oatmeal there. And so each time a container is filled, the person steps back, a runner takes it down to the next table. Eventually, these are all packaged in boxes, and then they'll go from these boxes that are easily moved to being packed on a pallet, just a full-size wooden pallet, and wrapped, and we can take those to food pantries and food banks. Finally, let's go to the next slide. Not finally, but the next slide gives you kind of a further back view of the gym there at West. And I've got to tell you, when we first started doing this, I was wondering if the fun of one of these events would be missing because we were so spaced. And in before times, people would be like shoulder to shoulder, and we've got music going during all of this. And each line of food races to see how many boxes you can do. When a box is filled, a gong is hit, and everyone claps and all this kind of stuff, and music's played, and people are singing and dancing. Well, even with all this space in between each person, everyone is still singing and dancing and having a blast. So the fun factor was not diminished at all. And we've been very happy about that. Let's go now to the last slide. So I told you at the beginning that we try to get corporations often to underwrite some of this. And this is just a quote from someone at DaVita in downtown Denver. DaVita had a blast. They were, the employees, or you know, it was less the employees, it was more management was I think hesitant at first about trying to get people to come and package food because they were worried about how safe it would be and how spaced and what it was going to be like. And at the end of the very first shift, they were just, everyone was fired up and they wanted to come to the next shift. But of course, that was already like sold out. It was already filled with volunteers. And they came back and asked us, well, when's the next event that's somewhere else? And we've had just a whole contingency of people that were DaVita employees that were exposed to these events at their workplace. And subsequently, they keep showing up at events to pack food that we have all over the place. So it's been very successful. It's been successful from a standpoint of economics, and it's been successful from the standpoint of creating a meal that people really enjoy, has a great shelf life, that doesn't need to be refrigerated or anything else like that. And we can certainly roll these out to people in our community. All we need now is more funding to buy more ingredients. And that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions for me?
What are the next events that you're looking for volunteers for?
Since I don't have internet, I think it's Saturday. Christy, is it Saturday? Are you out there?
It's Saturday. Yeah, the next one is Saturday. And you can also go to our website and you'll see a slider on the top of the homepage that you can click on that will take you to the page that has all of the dates and times. And so obviously we would invite you to come at a time that's convenient for you. It's really so much fun.
What is your website with the dates?
So if you go to
SparkTheChangeColorado.org.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooks. Thank you so much.
So this is something
No.
I have teenagers. Can I bring them? Is there a certain age requirement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the age requirement is if you say they're teenagers, we're good with that. They'll go through the same process, sort of signing up as you would. Teenagers are fine. Where we draw the line is somebody says, hey, I'm going to bring my younger kids. And we're like, no, you can't do that. We don't know how distant they would be from people and all of that. And they can't work on the line usually. It's teenagers and up.
So I posted that direct link into the chat. And if you just scroll down, there's a button that says sign up for a shift. And that's the quickest way to get there.
Thank you, Maddie. And thank you, Brooks. Volunteers, if you still have questions, that's fine. We'll have time at the end as well. We'll move to Colorado Pet Pantry and Eileen.
Well, hi. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm the executive director and founder of the Colorado Pet Pantry, which is a pet food bank. We started out in Denver and we're now statewide because of volunteers. And we're a pet food bank. So we have pet food and pet supplies for people and groups that are in need. So we have 74 pet food banks throughout the state. And we also work with a bunch of groups. We do tons of collaboration with Meals on Wheels and Mercy Housing, which is, low-income housing, various housing groups besides them as well. We work with about 90 animal rescues and other animal welfare organizations like low-cost veterinarians, Spade a Day, Planned Pethood. We have various partners as well. And basically we started in 2013 and we have found that we're able to feed a dog or cat for $5 a month because the food is donated and most of our team are volunteers. So because of that, because we have so much being donated, either by time or by product, we're able to help people to feed their animals and keep them with their families for a really low amount of money. And that's really been the key to our success, I believe, is that we've had such commitment. Colorado is a huge animal loving state. And so we have animal loving businesses and people and community groups, and that's made all the difference to us. So we started in 2013, and the really brief story on that is that I was volunteering at Dumb Friends League, which is a local animal shelter in Denver. And I'm Snoopy, and so I was wondering why people were relinquishing animals that in some of the cases it was clear they didn't want to. And I learned that there were, the top 3 reasons are lack of housing, cost of veterinary care, and lack of pet food and supplies. So the first 2 sounded really hard. And at that time I had a full-time job and I was like, okay, that's not going to fit into my life. But then the number 3 one, I thought, that one's actually solvable. I have a bag of food in my cupboard that my dog, wasn't eating at that time. And it was really just a matter of figuring out who to give that food to and how to get it to the people that need it. And so that was kind of going on in the back of my mind. And then one day I was listening to the news and I heard a story about a pet food bank in Georgia. And that was just when it all came together. And I realized that I could actually turn this idea into something. And then we started partnering with a human food bank in 2013. We started with one location. And it just made sense. People were already going to the human food bank saying they needed help with pet food, or they needed help with human food. And we know that a majority of Americans have animals. So of course, if you're going to a human food bank, chances are you have an animal too. And so some of that human food's going over to the animals. And so we thought, let's just partner with a human food bank, and then we don't have to go and get our own building or anything. We can just set up shop in their parking lot. And we didn't even really have to do any marketing because people were already coming into the human food bank. And that model ended up just working really well for us. So that's what we do. So every month we have 74 locations. And in the ones where we're partnering with human food banks, we basically show up at their location for a few hours a month. We keep the date the same every month. So, at certain locations, it might be we're there on the first Thursday of the month from 10 to 12. So it's about a 3-hour shift, between the start and the end of, setup and tear down. So it's really doable. And we found that was another key to success with our volunteers, was really, breaking volunteer roles up into really small increments to where you don't have to commit to something every week, or just to have a really high commitment level, because we realized that volunteers had a variety of capacities. Some just have a volunteer day with their business that they can do once a month or 2 times a year or whatever. So we just wanted to capitalize on whatever someone could offer. We wanted to find a way for them to plug in. So we were able to create a variety of roles, leveraging volunteers in different ways to help us at our pet food banks, to help us at our warehouse, to help us administratively. We just sort of plugged people into a bunch of different roles. And just out of, naturally, it happened that certain volunteers became leads of their area because they, had more time to give. And so that just was always, how we've gotten going. And now we're 8 years old. And one of the things I said is that we are so lucky that we started 8 years ago so that we were ready for 2020 and COVID and everything that came with it. Because I feel like we did a really good job in 2020 and being able to expand. Volunteers knew about us. And so we were able to quickly grow in certain areas because we were on the radar of people in different areas. And that was so good because I think in 2020, everyone, wanted to feel like they could do something to help. And it was just great to give people the ability to plug themselves in and do something to help their neighbor. So I just wanted to go over the roles that we have.
Is there a specific slide you want me to be showing right now? Is there any slides?
Yeah, you can go ahead and go to the next one. How about that? Let me just make sure that I've covered all of that, everything that's on here. Okay, there's a few more stats on here. So in 2020, we served 5.1 million meals, which that fed 85,000 dogs and cats for a full month. Keeping, them out of the animal shelters, helping their families have a little bit more money to pay their bills, especially if they were laid off during COVID or if someone was in the hospital. One thing that we definitely saw in 2020 is we had lots of folks coming to us that said, I'd never come to a food bank in my life, and here I am. And I never thought I was going to be in this position. And I think that's really important. And I think it's also really important to say that we are open to the public. We don't ask why you're here. And we always put dignity first. We just assume that, you have a reason to be here and we want to help your animals. And because we get the food donated and we've got volunteers willing to help, I just say that, if someone raises their hand and says they need help, let's help them, no big deal. We're statewide, so we started on the Front Range, but we've expanded to be throughout the state. We're now in Grand Junction, Four Corners, Durango, Cortez. There's still lots of room for us to grow. I mean, the state's a big state, but we are at least in the 4 quadrants of the state. We're as far north as Loveland and Greeley, and then, all the way down to Alamosa, and we're about to open in Trinidad, and then Durango, Cortez. So there's always going to be areas for us to expand because there's need everywhere. And one thing that we do is we really center our programs around, first of all, where's the need? But second of all, where do we have volunteers? Because if there's need, but no volunteer to help us to get to the need, then we're sort of at a roadblock. So if we have volunteers that, live in various parts of the state and want to do this and want to open up a pet food bank for their community, I'm always happy to take that call. And that person, I'm going to try and talk them into being a lead pet food bank volunteer. Because if we can, we can center the pet food banks around what the volunteers can do, that's proven to be a successful model, because there's really passionate people throughout the state, and we just tap into that. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we have various volunteer roles. So I'll go ahead and start with the first one, pet food bank roles. You can go to the next slide, please. So like I said, we try to create the roles to be as small or big as people want them to be. So you can volunteer for one pet food bank, and that's maybe the only thing you've ever done and the only thing you're ever going to do. Or you could volunteer for that pet food bank that's near your home multiple times a year or every single month. And it's about 3 to 4 hours. We train you on the spot. A lot of times I'll get emails from people asking if we have an orientation, and we really don't. It's super simple. So, a new volunteer will come to a pet food bank and we'll quickly train you on the process. And in most locations, the process is we're going to put new volunteers on the fulfillment side. So we have intake and then we have fulfillment. Intake is registration. So that's going to be the volunteers who've been with us for a little bit of time. And then fulfillment just means that you're looking at how much food and supplies the client needs, and just taking that order and usually putting it in their car. In COVID land, we are now mostly drive-through, which is really great, actually. I kind of want to never go back to not being drive-through. And it's great for the clients too, because they don't have to pick up this 30-pound bag of food. We just put it directly in their trunk. It's really a cool concept. I don't know that it'll necessarily continue for other reasons, but it's really been nice. So we just, the fulfillment volunteers will just get the order and, grab the food, just, like quickly looking to see what we have available and putting that food in their car, and then the car leaves. So it's really pretty simple. And we do, we're always looking for more volunteers to help us with intake. So that usually will take a couple of months before you would get to that role. But with intake, we have a database that runs off of off your smartphone. And if you're willing to use your smartphone, great. We'd love to put you on. And I really do want to put in a plug that we always need bilingual volunteers in not just one language. Spanish is definitely the highest priority. We have several food banks where we could really use some Spanish speakers that would make things go a lot smoother. But we also have Russian and, in various languages. So I think any other languages would be so helpful. And that's a gap that we don't have a lot of. So if you're out there, please sign up and let me know that you're bilingual as well. And then, like I said, the pet food banks are throughout the state. So really, wherever you are, there's probably a pet food bank somewhat near you. And all of those are on the Spark the Change website and also on our website, of course. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Lead pet food bank volunteers. This is, after you've been with us for a couple of months, we a lot of times will tap into people and ask them if they're interested in being a lead. The biggest holdup for us to expanding to new areas and new pet food banks is lack of lead volunteers. It's double the work. It's more of the commitment. It's a monthly commitment, about 7 hours, because you need to come and get the food and the supplies, bring it to the pet food bank, distribute it. You're also managing the group of volunteers that are at that location, and then you're bringing everything back to the warehouse. And our warehouse is in Inglewood, but don't let that scare you, because our food banks that are in various parts of the states usually will go in, we'll set up shop in we'll get a storage unit in your town, so that you're not really coming to Inglewood every single time. So we have worked this out to success so far. And you definitely need to be able to lift. The lead volunteer, all of a sudden, you've got to actually meet all of the requirements. You need to have a large vehicle, clean driving record, good insurance. And you definitely need to be able to use the smartphone in the database. It's not super techy by any means, but it's a little bit. It's something that we train you on, and I think if you know how to use a smartphone, chances are you'll be just fine. And again, bilingual is really important. And like I said, I estimate that it's about 7 hours a month. And we recognize that you're not going to be there every single month. You're going to go on vacation, and that's okay. But we're just asking for a commitment to at least a full year. And, with the occasional, we'll have to figure something out kind of solution. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So in our warehouse, which is in Inglewood, and this role would really be limited to Inglewood. I think eventually we might have this role in Grand Junction or the Four Corners, but right now it's just in Inglewood, Colorado, which is in kind of Southwest Denver. And this role definitely requires lifting. So we need volunteers to come in and sort the many, many, many donations that we get in. It is Groundhog Day, and it's like you'll finish all of your work, and then one of our volunteers will drive in the door with another carload of donations. So you just have to be okay with that and have the fulfillment. Yes.
About 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, great.
Thanks.
And so there's lots of work in our warehouse. It is indoors, but we do social distancing. Masks are always required. We have a large warehouse, so we're able to really spread out. And this opportunity is good for groups. If you have a corporate group, or some sort of a fun group, or we have warehouse open house days on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sundays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And those are also good. And you can sign up for all of that on the Spark the Change website. And you can go ahead and go to the next one. Data analytics. This is really for someone out there who's really good at Excel and data. We've been trying to do some analysis around all the data we have on our clients and where the need is, trying to look at where poverty is higher than others in the state. So if someone's interested in helping us with some analytics, we would be really grateful. And this is a new role that we're considering. That I think would be really helpful in us trying to decide where to expand. And go ahead to the next one, please. And that's it. And the last thing I was going to say is that we're always looking for volunteers to help us with food transport, especially to the Western Slope. So if you're driving a car, and if one of the directions you're going, to either Four Corners or Grand Junction, that area, if the car is empty and you want to put stuff in it and help us transport stuff, we're always trying to send stuff, and we're always trying to bring stuff back. So we'd love to hear from you as well. That role's not on the website, on the Spark the Change website, but you can always email me, and there's my email address. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Colorado Pet Pantry and Eileen?
I have a question, Eileen. Do you have any, and you may have mentioned this, but do you have any requirements on the food that is donated?
Nope, we don't, because we, one of the benefits of us is that we are able to keep stuff out of the landfill. And so we pretty much accept anything. And then when in the warehouse, we will sort it and figure out where it needs to go. So we'll, you know, if the food is open, you know, it just of course needs to be good, you know, but at our food banks, we give out food that's up to 1 year past expiration. But even if we were to get food that was more than 1 year past expiration, don't let that stop you from donating, because we actually have other outlets that we're able to send that food. So it's, you know, because we work with so many different groups and different groups have different rules. So we're able to kind of parse things out. So I would just say, leave that work to us. And if you have food or supplies or whatever, just donate it. With supplies, they just need to be washed if it's dirty, like a dog bed or something. But we're not too picky, and we handle all that work in our warehouse.
Great. Thank you so much. In the interest of time, I'm going to let, if you have any other questions, either email Eileen or we can ask them at the end of the session. But I want to make sure that we give Yasmin a chance to talk as well from Metro Caring.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am the volunteer and intake coordinator at Metro Caring. So we are a local organization to Denver, and we work to provide our community with healthy and nutritious food, so to meet people's immediate need, while also simultaneously addressing the root causes of hunger, so poverty and multiple other factors. So our fresh foods market is at the heart of Metro Caring, although it looks a little different now with COVID. But what we used to have was a fresh foods market, and when you walked into our building, it really looked like a grocery store. So it was a very dignified shopping experience for our community members. Our community members could come in and they would shop just as you would at like King Soopers or anywhere else. There was no limit on the amount of food that they could take. They can take, we had our model that was take what you need. And so, yeah, and the only thing we limited is meat, frozen meat, and that is simply because we just didn't receive enough. That is one of the hardest things that we try to procure. But yeah, fresh foods market. Now with COVID, we have transitioned to a drive-through distribution, a walk-up food distribution, and then we also started home deliveries for 3 to 4 times a week. Those started for our community members in the 65 plus range who are in the more vulnerable categories. And then we really opened it up to anybody in our community who just didn't feel safe leaving their house. So our home deliveries are open to anybody. Great. So like I said, we always like to say here, yes, we are a food bank, but we do so much more than that. So we have a variety of comprehensive anti-hunger resources. We have nutrition programs. So those nutrition programs include like healthy cooking classes and cooking clubs. We have a kitchen in our building, although all of our kitchen and nutrition programs have been moved virtually. With those, we also have a self-management diabetes program in which our participants can go through a cohort. And with that, we partner with St. Joseph's Hospital and get all the resources from them. And we also have a dietitian on staff that works with all of our nutrition programs. Also, we have gardening programs. So we have over 40 community garden beds in the city of Denver. We have a greenhouse and we have a freight farm as well. If you don't know what a freight farm is, it is a large shipping container and it is parked at St. Joseph's as well. They help us pay for it in our partnership, but that essentially just lets us grow a bunch of leafy greens all year round for our market to distribute. And then with our gardening programs, now they're getting started up again, but with that, We do not charge anybody anything to use them. It's just kind of on a first come, first serve basis. If people don't know how to garden or they've never grown their own food, we offer gardening classes and we distribute seeds as well. And if they don't have the tools, we provide tools as well. So that's really cool. Another thing that we distribute in addition to our food is ID vouchers. So Metro Caring is the leading organization in Colorado that distributes vouchers for documents such as ID, driver's license, and birth certificate vouchers. These are really essential documents for things such as employment, housing, healthcare, and more. So this really gets at our comprehensive anti-hunger resources. And these documents can get really pricey. So if you think a lot of the times, if someone is moving into a house and they have a family of 5 or 6, to get a birth certificate for each individual in the household can get pretty costly. So we provide these documents and we are still providing these now with our COVID operations. And then the last thing that we have is what we call community activation. So this is where we really try to get at those root causes and build the leadership capacity within our community. So we put out like action alerts on certain legislative issues. Metro Caring was really heavily involved in raising the minimum wage because these are the things that will make this sustainable, lasting change in hunger. Livable, yeah, like I said, livable wages, affordable housing, all of these things. But yeah, with our fresh foods market, another thing that I think Metro Caring is really special is that we really focus on healthy and nutritious food and then culturally appropriate food. So in our general market, we do not put out anything that has more than 11 grams of added sugar, and we prioritize not putting that out into our community. So we focus on fresh produce and things like that. And we also we try to cater to dietary needs. So we have gluten-free bags, vegetarian bags, vegan bags. And then we also try to, in our efforts to really, so with our fresh foods market, we had what we call the choice model, where people had the dignifying experience to choose what they wanted to eat and what was best for themselves and their family. And now with our drive-through model and our pre-made boxes and bags, that it has been a challenge. So with our efforts to address that with the COVID pandemic is that we, during certain holidays, we've focused on doing different bags. Like during Ramadan, we got specific items, procured items that tailor to our community members who were celebrating Ramadan. We did the same to provide Latinx bags that featured items typical to Latinx cooking. We did Chinese New Year, that was the most recent one. And the way that we even chose what was in these bags is we really work with our community. So we really have moved away from the charity model and we work in solidarity with our community. So everything that we do, we involve our community in choices. Just now we're making focus groups in order to figure out how to best improve our appointment scheduling process because we do work on an appointment. So yeah, everything that we do, we involve our community and we make sure that their voices are heard and valued as well. So with that, our volunteer roles. So we always say there is absolutely no way that we could do what we do without the support of our volunteers. I want to say with COVID, we have really been very precautious in the way that we do things, the way that we operate in addressing, like we got a whole HVAC system in our building. We have capped it at 20 volunteers in per shift. So our operations work on shifts. We have a morning shift, afternoon shift, evening shift, and then we have one weekend opportunity on Sunday. And most of our shifts are just 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So they're short shifts. And we just ask that with the morning and the evening shift that you just choose a time frame.
Yasmin, I can't hear you anymore.
If you're connected to anything via Bluetooth, I think I heard a vibration right when it cut out, so you might be connected to a Bluetooth device.
While Yasmin is figuring that out, you can certainly, as she mentioned, go to the Spark the Change website where Maddie posted that in the chat, and you can find their opportunities posted there. You can also contact Yasmin directly. Her email is there, or call her for any questions or wanting to sign up. I think there's so much there that sounds really neat. And really fun to get involved with. Try again, Yasmin. Are you able to speak? No. Okay.
Maybe if you try leaving and coming back in.
Good suggestion. While she's doing that, does anyone have any questions for Eileen or Brooks? Brooks, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, great. So any questions for Harvest Pack with Brooks or with Eileen for Colorado Pet Pantry? Pamela, are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I am. And look at, there's a hand on my picture. So are you guys doing, you mentioned this is like maybe your first time kind of doing something like this. Is this something that you're going to do maybe once a month, and then you're going to just pick 3 organizations each month to kind of get the volunteers more familiar with them? And if so, like how often do you think you'll be doing these? Because this was, as a potential volunteer, this was wonderful. I really enjoyed learning about the different areas where I can help.
Wonderful. I appreciate that feedback. Yes, the ideal is to do it every 1 to 2 months. So it may not happen every month, depending on how quickly we can get organizations to respond and sign up. But at least my goal is to get the next one going for April for Earth Day. So yes, the goal is, and we'll be sending them through the volunteer newsletter. How did you hear about us, Pamela?
I just wanted to help. I've transitioned out of working, so I just went on, calling Colorado Volunteers, and I think I just found you guys and signed up for I get emails.
Fabulous. Okay, good. And do you get the newsletter, the volunteer newsletter, which is now, as of yesterday, our brand new volunteer guide?
I'm not sure I get that. I could probably give you my email address, or if you tell me where I can go to sign up, I can do that.
Great. Yes. It's on our website. The link to sign up is on our website. It's on our front page. You'll see, you see the new volunteer guide, and you can click to sign up and get on that mailing list. And that does come out monthly. And it will also promote the next community connection events. And we'll send out e-blasts as well in case those happen before that guide comes out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Eileen, I'm sorry, Yasmin, are you fixed?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
Hey.
Suggestion, whoever did that.
I have no idea what happened. I was getting a lot of messages and I didn't know if it was coming through, so I tried to turn off my volume. I don't know what happened. But yeah, I guess the only thing I wanted to say is just like the roles. So we have a lot of roles, from like check-in, which is just checking people in for their community members, sorting, warehouse help, answering phones. So we have a variety of roles that can really tailor to different needs, whether you're more of a social person that likes to really engage with people, or you really want to help, but you just want to stay in your bubble. That's really fine. You do more of the bag and box making. And we really try to put volunteers in positions that they're happy being in. So I am more than happy to talk to any one of you. So I know we're running out of time. So you can just email me or feel free to, I guess email is the best because now with COVID, I'm not always in the office, but I can we can schedule a call as well. I'm always happy to do that. I think you're on mute.
Unmute, thank you. Any last questions? Thank you so much, Yasmin, for presenting that. Any last questions for Yasmin? Well, thank you to all of our presenters, Brooks, Eileen, and Yasmin. I learned a lot, and I work with these organizations. This is my job. I work with you every day, and I learned a lot. This is amazing. Thank you so much for all of the great information. Everyone that participated, I hope you come away with something to go on, whether this time or some ideas of what you're interested in or how to connect. Maddie and Amanda have the slide up on the website here, and in the chat, all the connections to their pages and to the volunteer guide. My email is kstreck, STRECK, at sparkthechangecolorado.org if you have any questions or suggestions for next themes that you would like to hear. More organizations in those themes. Like I said, Earth Day is my goal for the next theme, but what would you like to hear from for the next events? Let me know. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly.